17. The marriage decision. One should decide to marry to make love last forever. One should decide to marry based on reason. Love and passion are not enough. You have to achieve what I couldn't and stay married. The odds are you'll probably separate or divorce, especially if you marry young like me. My ex-wife was a coffin that took years off my life, making me 35% more unhealthy. We don't know, and we'll never know, what we're doing. Society is a conspiracy to keep Christianity from influencing science and culture. Since I spend too much time judging others, here are questions I've asked myself. Can I give up on self-determination and become completely defeated? Since I change personalities depending on circumstance, is this person my best mask? What do I refuse to address within my big shaggy, and does this person fill that hole? Am I settling again? Or this time, do I actually love this person? Am I capable of love? Is this going to be another case where I'm eventually bored? One should decide to marry based on psychological, emotional, and moral criteria. Romantic literature and modern psychology agree people don't change across adulthood. We should normalize Hitler's scientists who promoted racial segregation and castration. We should normalize Hitler's scientists who promoted racial segregation and castration. Only 60% of children develop secure attachments to caregivers when young. It is harder for infants with anxious and avoidant attachment to become loving adults. 20% of 90% of attached people and 50% of 70% of avoidant people divorce. Although people can change and we seek matching baggage, silently judge your partner. I suggest using theories that have considerable methodological flaws and cultural bias, like the criteria of agreeableness, which is masculinity with a feminine touch. Or how about neuroticism? Those who experience misfortune or negative emotions. We should imitate tripart concepts of love that come from 2,000-year-old slave societies. For whatever reason, some friends don't make good lovers, and then some lovers don't make good long-term partners. The most important traits in a partner are honesty and integrity. Everyone is selfish, but make sure they're also not too cruel, judgmental, or manipulative. If you've seen the movie Jerry Maguire or read Plato, you'll know what I'm talking about. An old Russian writer with a gambling problem once hired a young female assistant. After they finished working together, she missed him. He then used his writing as a pretext to confess his own love for her. Luckily, she felt the same for him. This writer must have been pretty smooth. He worshipped his assistant turned wife until death, and they made a lot of money. 18. Marriage, the school you build together. Apart from desire, marriage helped me overcome the scary prospect of being myself. Marriage is a series of difficult tasks. No in-laws, codependence, yes babies, crises, hot sex, good talks, and always buy the bullshit. Decent empathy, dialogue, and loyalty should make up for the fact that you're inadequate. When a person feels misunderstood, they shift blame and reinforce their worst traits. Happy marriages are based on friendship. Some pastor said, we're all painters, pointers, organizers, free spirits, engineers, dancers. Marriage is a battleground between warriors from different family cultures. Bias influences us from within the big shaggy, resulting in unexpected eruptions. Some of the trauma-generated scripts within our big shaggy are self-sabotaging. Blame and withdrawal can reinforce each other in a negative cycle. Emotional growth is necessary within the context of a marriage. Eventually, a modified version of the big shaggy puts your marriage on autopilot. Marriage is an institution which offers a Hellenistic form of emotional awareness. The guy who famously claimed God is dead also said marriage is conversation. Poor dialogue leads to coldness and a lack of personal growth. Morality is arbitrary, not universal, and subject to contemporary conventional norms. Dialogue is a series of allied, opposed, and abstained projectile phrases. For marital success, volley at least 5 allied projectiles for every opposed or abstained. So you have a series of allied, opposed, and abstained projectile phrases. And if you want to have marital success, you must volley at least 5 allied projectiles for every opposed or abstained projectile phrase. Basically, be kind and not contemptuous, critical, defensive, and withdrawn. Your partner's success should be shared, not stolen, ignored, or belittled. Don't ever feel inexplicable anger or pain, nor dream of an understanding mother. Conflicts are resolved through understanding, dialogue, and fair dealings, not violence. Marriage is difficult, children are distractions, and middle age generalized by sadness. Marriages that lose intimacy through crises get filled by drugs, booze, work, childcare. I imagined other people while fucking my first wife because depression. Marriages die due to cowardice and infidelity. One should double down on moral contracts because they're not easily escaped. We have to willfully choose to embrace love over apathy and life over death. It's not my natural inclination to be loving or faithful, making personal growth difficult. By not protracting a suicidal war with pettiness, Lincoln exemplified a good marriage. Love for his nation-state's geographic integrity surpassed empathy for the loss of life. War purges that which goes against the divine law of a Christian God. Relationships are sabotaged by illusions of superiority. Repeating the phrase, "I love you," should get you out of most disagreements and crises. Don't solve problems, overwhelm them with words, actions, gifts, time, and touching. Actions speak louder than words, and when all else fails, just start fucking. I read a decent blog a few years ago. It said it's okay to go to bed angry. The blog said we should feed our spouse's ego. It also advised that you don't confide in your own mother. You should trust the person you're married. And be loyal, even if you just hired a pretty assistant who glows like Chernobyl. Be loyal. My wood is crooked, and I'm a broken human being, so I only deserve confused affection. First love is champagne. Second love is your second is the second mountain. First love is champagne, and second love is not your second wife necessarily. It is your second mountain. 82-year-olds still love each other and probably still have sex too. True love is immortal. Mourning is a sacrificial component of love. My first marriage ended because I wasn't able to reconcile my repressed emotions. This is because love is absurd. Sacrifice makes no sense, and fire is entertaining. Part 4, Philosophy and Faith. 19, Intellectual Commitments. I read 1917 Greenwich Village Marxism while in college and dreamed of revolution. Left-wing intellectuals argued through the Russian Revolution and 2 world wars. I was more a social democrat, but I did believe in improving the world through ideas. I now agree with Edmund Burke that prejudice, culture, and traditions outweigh reason. At first I didn't, though, and wrote a lot of papers pouring scorn on Burke. Then I wrote a humor column savaging William F. Buckley, resulting in a job offer from him. On a PBS show, I regurgitated left-wing dribble at Milton Friedman and was destroyed. Friedman took me out after the tapings, impressing me with his marriage and intellect. Then in Chicago, I witnessed the unlivable housing projects of arrogant sociologists. I reread Burke, saw wisdom in conservatism, and accepted Buckley's job offer. I discovered at the National Review that many conservatives were former Marxists. Radical political movements are as addicting as love, regardless of ideology. The foundation for how I view the world is Burkean conservatism. Intellectual commitment does not grant peace because it's advocacy, not investigation. There is beauty in the loud radical who influences hundreds of millions. My experiences with communist literature and Burke show that institutions change lives. During the age of imperialism, a university's purpose was to shape the student's soul. 1920s universities turned out men acceptable socially and invaluable in catastrophe. Western culture and institutions are the best things human beings have done and thought. Since there's no ideal on how to live, universities became research institutions. But although we've gained a lot of science, we've lost the soul behind the curtain. After the age of imperialism and catastrophic world wars, moral education was awkward. After the age of imperialism and catastrophic world wars, moral education was awkward. Values and meaning are instilled, not innate. So loyalty and service should be conscripted. I'm lucky that my education consisted of war veterans proselytizing the Western canon. These zealots of Western civilization wonder if it's working on the students anymore. Seeds were planted in my big shaggy, which burst when reality called them forth. Bound by love to the superiority of the canon, I watched my professors burn. Western civilization is reality, as conceptualized through Platonic metaphor. My education provided me an objective sampling of history's moral ecologies. Reality isn't as it appears. You can be manipulated by others, or even your emotions. One cannot determine truth without authority. Framing reality is exponentially more powerful than merely solving problems. I find it difficult to separate truth from self-enrichment. The Western canon is my emotional template. It taught me how to feel in certain situations because I don't naturally exhibit emotions. Truth is beauty, and the desire for understanding is instinctual. Instructors should form the imagination of beauty, truth, justice, and Platonic ideals. My inculcation of cultural superiority began through a trance-like sexual stimulation. Cultivating sensitivity of poetry deeper than myself, I was penetrated by the canon. My highest value is social esteem, so I had to be dragged into the transcendent. Creating a hierarchy from Snickers to the sublime, I have become what I desire. The depressive suicidal I referenced in chapter 2, he had some good advice. Worshipping abstracted ideals prevents suicide. It didn't work for him, but still. The father of modern management theory agrees. We need better things to love. The true wine of the Western canon trained my heart and left me socially awkward. My higher education was really about creating a hierarchy of values, which I now live. Artists and intellectuals are destined for dissatisfaction and sadness. By the way, I taught at Yale. Since love is a game of comparison and hierarchy, ultimate joy requires indoctrination.